Easy Sports Talk Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts. I am Javon J. Love Adams, and with me, as always, is a man who played not only professional baseball, but he also played in the National Football League on that first Super Bowl bound team for the Atlanta Falcons. He is a motivational speaker. He is an author. Of course, I am talking about none other than Ed Easy Smith. What is good, my brother?
What's going on, Jay? It's Hump Day.
Hump day, hump day.
Yes, sir.
So I'm glad that you picked up. I'm glad you picked up last night when I called you because you reminded me about one of the topics for the show. You were, instead of using my cell phone as the notebook feature, I called you up and made you my notebook while I was sitting in traffic.
What the heck with calling Google? Just
Yeah.
call Ed.
Yeah, call Ed. Call Ed. So we got a great show lined up for you. A few things that I wanted to get my brother Ed's opinion on, and let's start off with it, man. Let's start off with it. The college football playoffs. The rankings came out yesterday. So interesting. I wanted your thoughts on it. For me, the interesting thing is that Florida State uh is number 4. So I was surprised. I thought they were going to continue to kind of penalize Florida State, the committee for the injury that was suffered by their starting quarterback a couple of weeks ago, but they actually rewarded them. So we have Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Florida State, then Oregon is 5. Now, you know what is interesting, and I'm trying to. Alabama is 8, and I when somebody mentioned this, gosh, who was it? I think it might have been I think it might have been locally. They mentioned that. Do you know that for all the bashing that we've done on Saban, they're 11-1, and I was thinking because we made it seem as if they were 8-4 or something like that, or 9-3 or something like that, man. But I wanted your thoughts on the rankings and also kind of your thoughts on Alabama because dang man, one loss and we about to try to fire the man.
Yeah, I think what it seems like they have lost multiple games, although even though they haven't, because they haven't been that dominant team that we're so used to. The one loss to Texas. I mean, that's a respectable loss because Texas is right there at 7, I think it is, in front of them. So, like I
Yeah.
said, I think the big thing is because they haven't been that dominant, step on everybody's throat, and they actually could have lost a couple more of those games. I watched every Alabama game this year. Tennessee and some other teams had them at the half, and then for some unknown reason, whether it was the teams got scared or woke up from the dream, Alabama came back and got them. But it wasn't the normal walk through the season that Alabama usually does. They had some scuffles throughout the year, and that one loss, actually, that's why I think it feels like it's more than just one loss, because normally they just roll tide. Instead, it was kind of it was kind of like a couple almost bumps in the road, and they weren't that dominant team. It's like Georgia is now that team that's just. I mean, I don't. How many
Okay,
have they
so
won in a
now that
row?
you went to that, is Georgia the dominant team? Because it seems like there's been so much. If I zoom out just from again, I do the macro level of things. It's almost as if it's Georgia's dominant like they normally are. Okay, anyway, let's talk about the dysfunction with Michigan, or let's talk about Ohio State and some of these other things. Since you watch these games more intently, is Georgia that team?
I don't think Georgia's that team that's like so far ahead of the pack, but because
Mm-hmm.
they've continued to roll with the wins, like their streak has got to be up there in 20, close to 30 games now, if you think about it, because they're 2 back-to-back
Yeah.
national champions, So, what can you say other than they just continue to win? And, but at the same time, they're not like, I wouldn't put them so far ahead of the pack that it's like Georgia and everybody else. It's Georgia, and there are a few other teams here just knocking on the door. We're going to find out over these next few weeks, obviously, with the conference championships, and then we'll see where everybody falls. And, there are some people that are thinking Alabama could beat Georgia. We'll see. I love the fact that it's neutral field. We're going to get the best of these two teams health wise. I think both of them are pretty healthy. This will be a first time in a long time that Alabama isn't like the favorite. I think Georgia's going in 5.5 point favorites in this one. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. But now's the time where you can't hide, you can't run. Florida State, they might catch a break because they're playing a weak ACC Louisville team in their conference championship, but they can be beat. We all, the biggest. Michigan, Iowa. Come on, I mean that's they're favored by 23 in their conference championship game. They're favored. I mean, they might as well be playing Chattanooga or something like that, But like I said, it's Michigan, and maybe they earned that right because they did beat Ohio State, which is obviously their biggest rival. But that should be the conference championship team or game. But think about this too, Jay. Last year of the Final Four, we're going to be moving to 12. This time next year, we're going to be talking about a whole lot more teams than just these first 4 or 5 or 6. It's going to be really interesting. The teams at the back end of that, to like 13 through 16, all battling for the 12 spot. It's going to be really interesting.
Okay, and side note, that topic that I wanted to bring to today's show, we'll do it Friday so we can take a deeper dive into it. I want to flesh some of that stuff out. But all right, so having said that, if you're looking at the list that I'm looking at, if we fast forward and let's say it's the exact same situation as it was this year, is there much? Would anybody care about LSU being 13, Louisville being 14, Arizona being 15, Iowa 16 in terms of those teams that are going to get into the mix? It seems like it would lose something because right now, as to your point, is that there's still that talk about Alabama could, if they win, they could jump all the way up to 4, that type of thing. So there's still some drama. There's still some there's a cliffhanger out there, so to speak. And I don't know if it'll be the same thing once we have 12 teams. Am I wrong?
Well, it's like, think about it, bro. When we're talking about March Madness, right? And now they want to open it up. And so it used to be this straight 64. Now you got the playing stuff and you got 68. Those teams at the back end, and obviously we're talking about football's a much smaller number. But, I mean, can you look at a team, like say a team at the back end, the 12, are they really national championship, like quality?
Right.
It just doesn't, for me, it's watering down the product. I would have been happier with 8 instead of 12. Yeah. But, there's more money in 12 because they can,
yes, sir.
So that's the way they roll. And the other thing with these kids, you're now stretching these seasons into where you're getting up into the 14 and 15 game, territory. And, I mean, we're still not paying these kids, but we're asking them to do more. But they can go get their NIL, but we're asking them to do more for less or the same amount, nothing. And
isn't that like your job telling you we're not going to pay you more, but go ahead and get a side hustle. We good. We okay with it.
No, here's the one I like, Jay. They give you a bump in the promotion as far as a name, but we're gonna keep your pay the same. We're gonna call you. You're now executive vice president of this department. Is there a raise in that? Nah. Well, but it's a title.
Yeah. So it is gonna be. Just the thought of that, it's not as intriguing or interesting to me when I think about that. When I think about the prospects of next year, and who knows, maybe there'll be a whole lot of competitive teams or something along those lines. But just wait until this time next year, where a lot of the people that wanted this 12 team playoff are going to say it's watered down, just the same way you did, and say it's watered down, and I'm not as interested as a result. Well, this is what everybody's clamoring for.
Here's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for the team when they come out with the final rankings next year, and a team that finishes at 13. We got robbed.
Why would I hear about you getting robbed at 13? Easy Sports Talk Podcast. It is Ed Smith and Javon Adams. Okay, so a little bit of NBA. I saw this on ESPN, and it made me start to think about it. And I mentioned this before. I think we've had conversations about it. That the people talk about the window, the championship window for a team, and how wide it is, or how fleeting it is as well. Really, when you think about it. And the Warriors are having they're having a down season. It's heavy on experience or veterans or just age, and some of their young players aren't coming along. And I wonder if. Was it the nostalgia? Do you think like the ownership or the management got caught up in the nostalgia these guys brought? Talking about Clay, talking about Draymond, because Curry is still balling, so that's the thing. That get caught up in that, and so we got to run it back because nostalgia purposes. Why not? That's my folks. And that's it's almost like cutting off your nose to spite your face in a lot of ways. I just wanted your thoughts on that. I just wanted to throw it out there.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but the GM for the Warriors who recently stepped away,
Yeah,
right?
he stepped away. Yes, yeah.
And part of the reason I think he stepped away, he wanted to make, in his heart, he knew what was coming. This old team is coming down the stretch. And in order to make the transition, if we want to keep this thing rolling, there was going to be some tough decisions that had to be made. Klay Thompson.
You didn't want to be that dude because you got to tear it down at some point. But go ahead.
You got to tear it down, or at least. And here's the thing: you don't have to tear it down. You have to start remodeling a little bit, because they could have very easily made the transition to some younger players. Gotten rid of Klay and gotten a new up and coming shooter, and maybe Draymond's getting a little old long in the tooth. And I'm just picking certain players, but you make the hard decisions to keep this train kind of rolling. And who is it? Belichick is always he's notorious before he got into this skiddies, and now he would rather move off a player a year early than keep him a year late. So there was that sweet spot in the middle, and he's like, hey, I could probably make this work another year, but rather than do that, I'm going to do this. And the Warriors just, everybody wants to continue to train that they get, on the ride that got them there. So it's hard. It's hard to say, Klay, we might be near the end of our relationship. Good luck moving forward, and we make a move. So that, in my opinion, that's why that GM. I'm sorry for not remembering his name, but he didn't want to ride this train. He wanted to do some revamping. He knew it would be tough for the people in the building, and he decided to get out of there. And that's what's happening. These Warriors, man, they're trying to keep the party going, but bro, the music is old, bro. We need to get some new stuff in there. We need to get some under in there, some stuff, and they're still playing the Temptations and stuff like that. So it's tough though.
Yeah, it is tough. Yeah, it is interesting because you don't want to, you're always thought of as the guy that turned it down. But here's the thing that I think that Belichick gets off players, as you mentioned, sooner, a year earlier as opposed to waiting a year too late. But I think, and this is across the board. I think sometimes when you get lucky, preparation and then just being in the right place at the right time, you either have a great draft on, you think about the Legion of Boom and how they drafted those players and how they lived off that draft for so long. And then when they were trying to bring other players in, they didn't quite have the same success. Right. So they ended up taking a dip. And I think it's the same thing with the Warriors. When you look at you hit the lottery. I mean, you just, goodness gracious, you got 3, cornerstone players, but then as they're trying to bring other players in via draft, either they're not developing fast enough or they're just total bust, like my man that they traded away to the Pistons. And so you try to get back on track. And so you hold on a little bit too long, and that can definitely set your organization back, because the longer you hold on, the more money you're paying to players that are maybe nowhere near their prime. So, all right. So we got a little bit of a dry shrunken version today, but we're going to get an interesting topic about my man, Mark Cuban, on Friday. So we do this thing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You can go to easysportstalk.com, easysportstalk.com. We have Believe in the Arizona Cardinals. That's twice a week. You can go to believe.com. You can also go to easysportstalk.com for that as well, or wherever you find your podcast. And then, of course, on every Saturday from 1 to 3 Eastern, we have our terrestrial radio show that is on SportsMap Radio. And you can go to sportsmapradio.com in the upper right-hand corner and click the little play button, or you can download the app for your mobile or Android device if you're not in one of the 90 plus markets that we're in every Saturday from 1 to 3 Eastern. So on behalf of the one and only Ed Smith, I am Javon Adams, and tell a friend about what we going on. And as I always like to say around this time, you can